Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev Briz and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And good morning, dear ones. Rev Briz with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
And we're a couple of ministers talking shit here on Friday morning. That means it's 7 a.m. on the Mountain Time Zone. Welcome. Glad you're with us. Good morning, Wayne. Welcome aboard. Glad you're here, sir. Everyone that's watching, if you're watching live, please make sure you drop a comment. We're happy to say hello and connect with you. And if you're watching at a later time, please feel free to comment as well and let us know how you're doing and join in the conversation. You're also welcome to connect with us via email at any point through the show live or afterwards during at any point, ministertalk@ntmedia.org. All right. Good morning, Z. How are you doing, my brother?
Oh, doing well. Looking forward to the weekend to regroup, recharge, and recenter. A lot of activity going on this week, and
oh yes,
so it's definitely a time, I think, at least for me, for sure, to reflect and go within and try to digest some of the stuff that's going on with the Floyd case and 2 new shootings and all of the information we received yesterday on Earth Day, and just a lot of stuff to contemplate.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, folks, we have never been one to shy away from a topic here on Ministers Talking Shit. So and Z and I sharing beforehand, we were kind of torn. There is so much going on. Black folk still continue to be shot at the hands of police at a fairly alarming regularity. And there is good news. Derek Chauvin was found guilty of second-degree murder, second-degree manslaughter, I think it was, and third-degree manslaughter as well. Somehow, I don't know how all that worked.
He got all 3 charges.
All 3 charges. We now await sentencing, and we trust that that the judge has. Because from what I understand, they also made a very interesting decision early on to allow the judge to handle the sentencing in this rather than the jury. Mm-hmm. And that decision was made pre-trial. So it's not something you get to, they found me guilty. No, I don't want you to sentence me. You got to do that ahead of time. And they went with the judge doing the sentencing. So we got to wait a little while to see where that is. But that's good news in my book, right? That's a step forward, it seems.
Yes, and I think the judge did a really good job of controlling the courtroom and trying to make it as palatable, if you will, based on all of the hoopla that was around it. So I think he did a good job in that, and so it'll be great to see what the sentence is. And the other thing, it'll be interesting to see what happens come August when the other 4 officers who were there begin their. There's already conversation about, I think at one point there was a conversation about trying them together, but now they're saying that, well, the guy who was there only 4 months and made a statement to Chauvin about, hey, let's turn him on his side. They're saying he needs a separate trial. This may have been his first real case like this. He didn't know what to do per se. He was following his boss, and he did offer the statement, which is heard on tape. Hey, we need to let's turn him on his side, or can we turn him on his side? And then I heard something about Tao's lawyer saying, well, he didn't touch nobody. He just stood there. So he don't want to be in the trial with the other 2 guys, I think it was, that were only, because I think it was 3 guys plus Chauvin that was holding him down. So
right.
It's going to be interesting to see how they posture and how they actually try the remaining 4 officers.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And we're going to offer some condolences this morning. It's not fun, folks. There's a new name on our list here. Where'd that go? I had that young man's name. So a gentleman in North Carolina. I haven't had a chance to do the research on the whole story. Was fleeing from police, was unarmed. All this has been confirmed, and was shot and is no longer with us.
Mm-hmm.
Man, why can't I? I'll have to look that up on the next break. But Z, what can we do? What?
Well, I think part of it is we have to continue doing what we're doing. We have to keep the spotlight on the issue. That's number one.
Okay.
Because one thing that was brought up a lot during Chauvin's case, had that 17-year-old young lady not stood there for those roughly 10 minutes and videoed that whole thing, we probably would not have had a conviction. We probably would not have even known anything about it. It would have just been, a young man who was arrested for counterfeiting money on drugs, died from complications of drugs, right?
Right.
But because that young lady was there, whose life, by the way, has changed forever at 17, and not to mention her little cousin who was 9 and is now 10, is there. I mean, and I even saw the one thing that got the clerk. He's dealing with some remorse now. He said he should have just said, no, this is the counterfeit dollar. You got to give me another one.
Right.
That could have avoided the whole thing. Why did you take the $20 bill? Right. So there's a lot of stuff out there. So in terms of how we prevent these kinds of things, and 1, keep the spotlight on it. 2, everybody has to be responsible, no matter which side of the law, if you will, you are on. We have to be more conscientious and more focus on life as opposed to trying to penalize somebody. And just real quick, our country has become so engrossed in shaming people and making fun of people and putting people. I mean, we see it in the commercials and the comedy and the shows where people,
Yes,
it's everywhere. This whole idea about shaming and making fun of and putting people down, that we don't take it serious, and those things hurt people. And that's why we have so much trauma now. I think part of it is COVID, but COVID has highlighted, raised the water on all of this trauma that we've experienced at the hands of our so-called friends and country and everything else. I don't know. It's going to be a concerted effort that's going to fix it, I think.
Yeah. You make a great point, and I want to reiterate that it isn't passive. We have to be good witnesses.
Yeah.
Right? Be good witnesses of what's going on. Yes, that young woman who's there holding the phone for 10 minutes, knowing that there's probably some of those cops that want to come over and just take that hit and get violent. Put that in. We've seen police do that, right? You can't film me. Put that away. You can't film. You can't. Yep. No, we have to be willing to be good witnesses and do the hard things to be those witnesses.
Yeah.
Because it took forever for the world to learn Elijah McClain's name. Mm-hmm. Because nobody filmed what happened to Elijah McClain.
Right.
And now that's a different experience. It wasn't a day. It's not exactly like there were a bunch of people around that could. But if you're the only one, we have to be courageous. We all carry devices, pretty much. Yeah. Use it, right?
And think about it. I know for Black kids, I mean for any kids, but it's been highlighted for Black kids. They have now special apps that you can have on your phone when you're being stopped or whatever, that you can hit this app and it will send a message that says, "Hey, I'm being stopped by police. Here's my location." And if you got a chance to record it, can record depending on where that phone is. But to think that we have to create applications to say I'm being stopped by a police officer and I don't feel safe, right, to kids, it sets a bad precedent, because once these things start, once they get momentum, you can stop it early, but if it gets momentum, it becomes very hard to stop.
Right.
And that's going to be something. And now I know on these two new cases, the young lady in Columbus, who was shot and killed, she had a knife and was trying to stab someone. You can see in the video when the officer tried to shoot, but then and of course this is still unfolding. They're saying, I heard that she was the one, or someone in her party called and said these other people were attacking her. So I don't know if the knife was hers or she took it from somebody or whatever. That's a whole ball of wax that has to go through, right? And the guy had the video camera and they released it immediately, and so there's a little different stuff there, but got to go through it. And then now you got the guy in North Carolina fleeing and he's shot. If a guy's fleeing, why you shoot him? I mean, how many times we've seen them with some suspects who aren't black? They'll let them run, they'll throw the spikes out, they'll do all kinds of things, but not shoot. I mean, we got all these guys who do mass murder. None of them were shot. All of them were taken for serious crimes, and then we see these guys with traffic stops and things hanging from the window, and
they're all white
charges, and they shot.
Come on, dude, they're all white. all those white kids with AR-15s go to jail. They're all alive. We can go look it all up. So yeah, I know you know that. Sorry, don't need to rub that in your face. So, folks, we don't want to dwell on this all day long here today. That's not the intention at all. Andrew Brown Jr., by the way, in North Carolina, our hearts go out to him, to his family. Yeah. Right. We don't know exactly what was going on. He's in a vehicle. He's fleeing the scene of something. In North Carolina, fleeing the scene is a crime, so they're going to try him and whatever it is, whatever the situation, whatever the story is that emerges, it's once again another call. And I shared this before the show started as well. I heard a term that we've been using the term defund the police, which everybody agrees is a terrible name, and whoever came up with it, thank you for the effort. And okay, we got to find another way to say this that's approachable. And the one I heard yesterday that I liked is we have to refund the police. Mm-hmm. Look at how we fund policing in this country and where the dollars are going and and still be able to provide community safety. So future conversations, right? We're in the midst of it. There's hope on the horizon in as far as justice and accountability for officers that abuse their power, that abuse their privilege, that abuse their weapons. And, it kind of reminds, so we're going to be visiting this again and again and again, folks, right? But in our conversations this morning, Z, it also reminded us that, another great marketing faux pas, if you will, was calling climate change global warming. And with yesterday being Earth Day, we've been chatting here. Signs would appear to be challenging for humanity and planet Earth right now, Z.
Yeah. I mean, and when we look at, we say climate change, but in essence, I even think it goes to ecological change, because we know that this planet is so thoroughly integrated and so interdependent that it's like one of those old clocks where you got all these parts moving. If one part gets stuck, that clock is not going to work.
Right.
Or not work effectively, and the time is going to be wrong. And so that's what we have now. I mean, I saw 3 programs that dealing with this. One was talking about the water situation. They got massive droughts in California, and in LA, they're now looking at how to turn brown water into drinking water in the near future because the rivers are drying up. They showed how in one of their reservoirs, I think it may have been Lake Mead, that you can see when you look at it, you can see the rock where it is, where it's white, where the water was, and where it's dark, where the sun was there and there was no water. It is a big gap. There was a thing on the Potomac River and how it's starting to rise up now on the sidewalk where people so if you don't catch it at the right tide, the sidewalk will be covered in water. And they're saying I forget within the century sometime that Martin Luther King's and Lincoln, some of these other monuments are going to be partially underwater. And then there was a whole nother one on wind turbines about how we can create massive amounts of kilowatts, gigawatts really, of electricity. So those are some of the things that we're faced with and how we fix it, but we have to play our part as humans.
Right. Yeah. Could you imagine? I've been to the Martin Luther King Memorial. It's a gorgeous, beautiful piece of stone, and there's such an amazing feel when you walk through there that to have that partially underwater.
Yeah, and it wasn't where my shoes would get wet. That water, based on the image they gave, that water would be up to my chest, so that water would be up 4 or 5 feet.
Right. So yeah, you're out in the ocean, but you're pretty much right. By that point, it's almost ocean because that's where the ocean and the river are meeting anyway. So
yes,
it's interesting, folks. It reminds me of an image, an art installation. I forget where this was. Belgium, I think this might have been originally. It was a temporary art installation, and it's called "Politicians Arguing Global Warming." And some of them, they're already the guy on the far left there. His nose is underwater. This guy's already drowning. There are some folks in there that you can see just the top of their heads, and we're kind of there. Yeah. And again, I was looking at this now. I've been taught, I know you have as well along the way, that the news is where our prayer request lies. That when you look at what's going on in the news in the world, that's where our prayer is needed. And this is one of those places. I went and did a quick search on the trends that are happening in global warming, in climate change, and it doesn't look good as far as seas are rising faster than anticipated or predicted. Temperatures are rising, not necessarily quicker, but we're still getting warmer. The oceans are definitely warmer. We see the ice sheets are shrinking. These are all indicators. More extreme weather events, higher humidity, snow cover reducing, glaciers retreating, oceans becoming more acidic. We're in the midst of a major climate change. There's no question about it. We might be in the midst of of a magnetic polar flip, and we may not realize it.
It's interesting because I saw a story the other day in Houston with the mayor of Houston about Texas and the traumatic weather they had. Right, no one expected to see that, and he's saying that. Again, he's saying, hey, this is climate change. Not, before we were talking about the hurricanes. Now we're talking about hurricanes and snow in Texas. Recently in Colorado, we've had lots of snow. We've had maybe, they're saying here in the Denver region, maybe 80 inches of snow this season. But they're saying we're still short of filling the reservoirs because the temperatures are getting hotter and that water is evaporating more than staying in the reservoirs. And so we are at this point now where we have to be conscious and we have to be aware. Google Maps just put up if you go to Google Maps or Google Earth, I forget which one it is, but they have a 37-year time lapse showing the changing of landscape based on weather and climate patterns. Go and see it. if that doesn't give you some indication and say, ooh, we got to get a little more attentive to this thing, I don't know what will. We're talking 37 years. That's within 2-3 of our lifetimes, right? I mean, we can live 37 years.
Right. So places like, you talk about Washington, D.C., Miami, Houston. You don't think of Houston as a coastal city, but Houston is low-lying. We've seen flooding in New Orleans, all these places. Folks, I would not be buying property in New Orleans because they're going to be under the ocean. unless you're planning to build a cofferdam around the entire city. We have to face these realities. We have to face that we're in the midst of change. Now, the beautiful part is we're religious scientists. We're pretty good at this change stuff. For the most part, we embrace the change and say, okay. And that is what we're looking at is we could share the data and the predictions and the what ifs and and what we're looking at is, okay, hold on. How do we start to put our mind in alignment with this is going to be part of the new normal, and the resistance isn't going to get us anywhere. So how do I start to get in alignment with this? How do I start to be part of a process? Perhaps it's just the prayer work to get started, but more maybe you're in a field that has some influence here where we can start saying, okay, let's reimagine how we look at the work we do and how it impacts climate.
Right.
I think like EVs are the greatest example right now. More EVs. Yeah. It might be the short-term patch to a longer-term concern, but what if climate change isn't a problem? What if it's just the challenge we get to face, and we've already got technology to help us solve it?
Yeah. And some of the other things we talk about on some of the other programs, and definitely is the whole idea of communal living, using less land, planting trees to help keep some of these soggy lands not so soggy, because you have plants or trees that can take up some of that water and begin to create some balance. We've talked about this a lot. Why does everybody need a snowblower, right? That's more carbon going in. That's more metal that we got to get rid of when they all break down. Let's get 2 or 3 of them in the neighborhood and share them and maintain them together and gas them together and take chances of getting rid of the snow. We have to begin to think like a global community of integrated, interrelated, interdependent beings and things, if you will. Because if we don't, we're going to have a big truck pile of snowmobiles and snow machines or whatever, and TVs and all of this stuff that does not break down and play very nicely with the earth.
Yes, I how I can get a little silly sometimes. I just went from we don't need a space force, we need a snow force. We need everybody come out and shovel. But I get this image of it's a snow day in your neighborhood, and instead of 6 guys with 6 snow blowers, you got 6 guys with 6 shovels and a handful of kids with shovels, and everybody's just out there having a good time in the morning together as a neighborhood. But you can't be a neighbor behind a snow machine. Hi, you can wave, but anyway, I'm going to get us off topic. I want to bring in something before we run out of time here today. Linda, yes, you're right. There are still people that believe all this is, quote, fake news. And I don't know whether to acknowledge them or discuss with them. Yes, that's a case-by-case basis, dear one, and I wish I had a blanket answer for you. But I want you to know we face that same thing.
Yeah.
And there are people out there right now that will not they won't believe anything that isn't told to them by a very select group of quote experts or pundits.
Yeah.
And can you say Tucker Carlson? Oh,
yeah. Well, and the thing is, we've created this environment where being wrong or being incorrect is a mortal sin, and it's not. We don't know everything. We're not going to know everything because it's always unfolding. I mean, just look. Just the other day in Egypt, they found a 35-year-old city. 35,000-year-old city intact, right? That nobody knew about
in Egypt.
In Egypt.
How do you hide a city in Egypt?
It's right next to the Valley of the Kings. They think it was a place where King Tutankhamun's father, Amenhotep II, I think it's second or third, was there. Full tack, walls, 10 feet walls and everything. Big city. So things are always being uncovered. Imagine what else is up under all that dirt in the desert that has been preserved because there's no humidity, it's dry, it's dirt. Who knows what's going to happen? But what we do know is that the world is unfolding, and we can't be so categorical on all these things, and we have to give room for life to unfold, and definitely from an ecological standpoint, because that is life. If we kill this ecology we got, we mess up all the water, we mess up all the air, we're done.
I just had this horrible image, dude. So the poles flip every 200,000 to 300,000 years. Best guesstimates is the last time that happened was about 780,000 years ago. So this city even wasn't born yet then, and came, and maybe they got, who knows, that might have been the last time the poles flipped, is this city. But what's going to happen is in 7 or 8 or 100,000 years, somebody's going to discover New York, mm-hmm. and they're going to discover Trump Tower. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to know how that's going to affect history. I know. So anyway,
we really, as a community of human beings, a community of humanity. I saw another news program on Earth Day. I was trying to check out a lot of stuff, and the guy was saying, we just spent a ton of money to go to Mars and check out the helicopter and
with the drone.
yeah, and take some carbon dioxide and see if we can make oxygen. And they were able to create oxygen, and the helicopter worked, and that's great. I worked on the first 4 launches of the space shuttle, so I truly understand and appreciate space and the whole space program. But at the same time, we have problems that are facing us right now. Yeah. That we need to address, and there's no money being provided for it. There's that, clean water, better air. How do we reduce the footprint of all the electronics that we have that get between the phones and the computers and all that stuff that is toxic, that we have too much of it and we don't recycle it better.
Yeah.
So, there are programs and things that we can do here that could take a few of those billions, because those programs to Mars are billions of dollars. Mm-hmm. We can do something here on the planet.
So refund the police and refund space. I gotta say, folks, we're running out of time. Let's put this on the schedule for another conversation, because I can support the privatization of space to a degree. And much to the degree that's happening, because let Elon go to Mars. Let him figure that out, right? He's an international citizen. It's a private company. Let him and his shareholders do that, and let us take care of the people. Bigger debate, bigger questions, folks.
Yeah.
And, we're never afraid to talk about these things. So let us know what you'd like to hear us talking about. ministertalk@ntmedia.org. We will respond to your comments. We will respond to your suggestions. We'll open the dialogue and be happy to communicate with you around that. And hey, if you want to come on the show, let us know. Perhaps we'll bring you on as a guest as well. So trying to think of a graceful way to get out of this conversation.
Well, the graceful way is we all must strive and work hard to be global citizens.
Yes.
We have to be better global citizens. And that means how we treat people, how we treat the earth, how we treat ourselves. We don't need to make fun of people. We need to encourage people. These are simple things that we can do that make a difference. We know they make a difference because they've been done before and had results. Yes. So that's what we have to begin to do as a global community.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And thinking 7 generations forward.
Yes.
All right, folks, we're going to get out of here. We want to thank you for being with us. If you're on the monthly contribution list here at the New Thought Media Network and giving on a regular basis, thank you. You get an extra thank you today. It's Friday. If you're not and you'd like to, there's a link in the description of the program. Please go ahead and hit that. And there's options on how you can contribute to make sure this programming stays on the air and all of our great programming here on the New Thought Media Network. And if you'd just like to drop a few bucks in the plate, as it were, you're more than welcome to do that. Keep joining us today. Fridays are always busy. 8:15, we've got morning prayers. 8:30, we've got the morning sip with Rev Melissa. 9:30, we've got the Collective World Healing Heart of Peace meditation. Heart of Peace meditation at 9:30. 10 o'clock is True Thought Miracles with Reverend Claudia and Brother T. And then we're back at 5 with Pastor Michael Mangus. 11 o'clock In the Flow with Rev Skip. I should remember that show. And then at 5, we have Pastor Michael with the Fireside Chat. So it's a full day of programming here on the network. We're grateful you're with us. We're grateful you keep coming back. And we look forward to seeing you again and again and again and again.
Yes, sir.
Final thoughts, Z?
Well, I would say go out and smile and plant a plant to create some oxygen, whether it's a vegetable garden or a flower. Let's get involved with the earth on an intimate relationship and create a global health day that fits into warming, that get, this whole warming and climate thing and police thing. Get rid of all that and let's begin to love one another.
Yes. All right, folks, before we go, a quick word from our sponsors. We'll be back again next Friday morning, 7 a.m. Mountain Time, for more Ministers Talking Shit. Until then, peace and blessings.
Faith, love, openness, willingness.